Okay, filter functions. Now let us take a look at this. So far we have looked. So far we have only looked at the implicit filter context. So what is an implicit filter context? How many of you remember this one? When you add rows or columns to a matrix, rows or columns, the filters gets applied automatically. This is what I discussed. 1 second, let me just pause this and it takes a lot of time. Let's wait for a few minutes. Okay, a few seconds. It will open. And I don't see any other. Okay, let me close other things, unnecessary things. And when the Python part, I will close it. So what is an implicit filter context? I discussed about this a while back, and in the last session, we discussed in detail about this. Guys, please revisit all my videos. Keep yourself up to date. It is very much important if you know the revising or revisiting the topics whatever I covered. If I say no session, and if in case of any uncertainty, right, like suddenly if you don't see any invite or something like that, right, so what you do is utilize the time to revisit the topics whatever I covered. Oh god, it's open now. Let us. Okay, implicit filter context. For example, I have a matrix. I created a measure like total sales. Total sales is the measure name. What formula I used it in the last session? Sum of sales amount. It gives me the overall total sales. That value will get assigned in our variable called total sales. The total sales is called my measure. Once I create a measure, and if I drag and drop it inside a matrix, it will show only one value. It will show only one value. Yeah, everything is there in this one. Good. It will show only one value. I'll just show you one more time. So matrix, this is my matrix visual. If I go down, let me see if I have any total sales measure already created. Yes, this is the one. Not this one, total sales measure. See, it is also a good practice using a variable in your measure. In this case, the measure name is total sales. So you can give whatever name that you wanted. Just for our sake of understanding, I mentioned M here. So next one is a defined variable. So you need to define a variable using var keyword, followed by the var. You need to specify the variable name. Here also I mentioned total sales, sum of sales amount from this table. This is a column name. Take the total of all the sales. Okay, do the total of all the sales amount, and do the total of all the total number of quantity we sold. Okay, so here let's say I want to return, this is the keyword. Okay, and followed by, if you say total units, this one will return this one. One second, let me just close this one. So let me see any other measure. Yeah, this is a pretty straightforward. Total sales measure, sum of sales amount, correct? I'm going to just drag and drop this here. When I drag and drop this, it will show only one value, because the sum of sales amount on a table will give me the total sales amount for the, and it does the total, right? It does the calculation of each and every column, right? So this is the only one value I'm seeing it. If I drag and drop a categorical variable along with this, for example, if I drag and drop a category, so what happens is it does the row-wise filtering. This is called implicit filtering. Please remember this. This is called, one second, let me just see the recording. Oh yeah, it's going on. This is called row-wise filtering. Okay, row-wise filtering. Supposing I want to see the location also in addition to this, and here the location name. If I drag and drop it here, look here. Now on the right side, if you see here, in the rows we have category, in the columns we have location name. The moment when I dragged and dropped the category column in this field rows, it does the filtering row wise automatically. Initially, when I dragged and dropped the total sales measure into this matrix, it was showing only one value, because it is an aggregation of the entire sales amount column value. But when I put this column here, the category column, along with this one, it does the filtering automatically. Out of the total 4,56,000 or 456,148, how much sales we made in beverages? How much total sales we made in beverages? Out of 4,56,148, how much total sales we made in dairy? Row-wise filtering was done automatically. The moment when I dragged and dropped the location column, the columns failed, it did the filtering at the column level also. Row-wise filtering. Beverages in Bangalore, how much in total we sold? In Delhi, beverages, how much in Pune, in beverages, how much we sold it in total. It does the filtering automatically. Row-wise, column-wise filtering was done automatically. This is called your initial filtering, initial filter context. And also I can use, I can apply filter, or I can use a slicer. Slicer also initial context filter. Let's say here I create a slicer, and if I, no, sorry, I made a mistake. Look here, I just go and create a slicer. In this slicer, I just say location name. So this is also a filter context, initial filter context. When I select Bangalore or Delhi, in addition to the row-wise, column-wise, the filter, whatever the items that we filtered in this slicer, it did the, this is also kind of a filter, initial filter context. Now the question is it possible to create an explicit filter context? Yes, it is possible using a DAX function called calculate. Calculate is a very simple function, but it is very, you can use it for very complex calculation. So you can use it for a very, so you can use it for a, performing any complex calculations. Okay. So it is one of the most dynamic functions that can help you add deeper insights to your reports. So essentially, this calculate function allows us to change the context of a calculation within a measure. Change the context of a calculation within a measure, wherein the context is determined by the environment in which your calculation is performed. Right? So it helps us to evaluate an expression in a modified filter context. There are two parts here. The one is the expression, the aggregation, right? It is mandatory, and the filter. So next one, the calculate function is very similar to your Excel SUMIF function. Those of you used SUMIF in Excel, then you should be able to understand the calculate function very well here. So it allows us to perform calculations in many different ways. Which one? The calculate function. So what all things that we can do using calculation? It helps us to modify the filter context. It can override the already existing filter context with the new one that's been specified in the calculate expression. If the filter context does not exist, it will add new. See, with this, you can add a new filter context, you can modify the existing filter context, and you can evaluate the expression. Okay. Okay, in this case, I have, so I mentioned about the measure, right? So you can see the measure here, calc with filter measure. On the right side of the equal sign, I have used the calculate function. So as I mentioned earlier, you can use a measure inside another measure. This is a measure. This is a measure. Inside the measure, I can use another measure. Total sales is equivalent to, remember, sum of sales amount. This is my aggregation, and followed by this filter. In this table, those products we sold more than 10, for that you compute the total sales. We don't want the total sales for everything. Okay. So in this case, the filters can be anything. So in this case, the filters can be Boolean filter, table filter, or filter modification functions. So in this case, we have used the simple expression, right? So the filtering criteria here, or we can say this is kind of a Boolean filter expression, right? If the condition is true, then you do the aggregation on this column. And the next one is okay. So the next thing is, what we will do is okay, we will understand the evaluation out of the calculate function. So in this case, which one will get evaluated? So here I have the first, whether the first argument will get evaluated, the second argument will get evaluated first. First, the filter will get evaluated, and then this one will evaluated lastly. Only then it makes sense. Even if you are familiar with SQL query, you take any RDBMS, whether it's a Microsoft SQL or anything. If you have used a filter condition, first it will filter the data and then it does the aggregation. Similarly, in DAX also, the calculate function, first it applies the filter and then it does the sum of total sales. This is logically correct, right? So supposing you want to, simple analogy, you want to go somewhere from your house to some place, right? A mall, you want to go to a mall from your house. So first you will find out the shortcut. It's kind of filtering. Once you find out the shortcut, and then what you do is you will book a cab. Okay. or you will you will book a cab or something there. Okay, same thing. So similarly, in this case, what will happen is first it will filter the data that we are interested, so that your total number of records will be less. On top of the less number of records, if you do the sum of total sales, the performance will be faster. That is the idea of it. So in the case of calculate function, first it evaluate the filter condition, and then it goes to this one. Okay. So in this case, we have two filtering criteria. Which one will get evaluated first? Which one will get evaluated first? So this one, the innermost filter criteria will get evaluated first, and then this one will get, so this is the one will get evaluated first, and then this one will get evaluated, and finally this one will always the inside out something like. Okay, so in this case, this is the one will get evaluated first, and then this one. Okay, please keep this keep in mind. So here, in addition to this, I have used a function called all. All is also used to for filtering purpose. So along with this, if you use a function all, this is an important function. This is also an important function in DAX. In addition to that, if you use all function, this one will get evaluated first. Okay, and then the filters will get evaluated. Okay, of these two, let's say this one and this one and this one. So this is how it will get evaluated. So first this one will be considered, and then we'll apply this filter, and then it does this one. You need to remember this one along with the typical filtering criteria. This is a filtering criteria greater than 10. The quantity is more than 10, and if the and also find out the totals is for Hyderabad. In addition to this traditional kind of filtering, if you include all along with this, the all will get evaluated first. You need to remember this. Okay, what we will do is we will jump into Power BI and we will take a look at the calculate function. And then we will take a look at the calculate table, and let us understand the difference between those two. Okay. And also we will take a look at the all function also side by side. Already I have used some other function. One second, let me just clear this, and I think we can use this matrix itself. So I'm going to do one thing here. Yeah, calculate with filter. Yeah, here I have used the same thing, whatever we have seen in the PowerPoint. The same thing we see here. Where is that? So this is the one. Okay, calculate total sales. Look here, right? So greater than 10. I'm going to, this already created it. Calc with filter measure is equivalent to calculate filter, in the sense here I'm using this one, filtering criteria. And then yeah, so I just go and close this one. So I'm going to create new matrix. New matrix, and here if I say calculate with filter, and then if I go ahead and select the category, so this is the one, right? So in category, this is the one. Okay, and I just go ahead and select it here, calculate with filter. Yeah, total sales. Okay, calculate with filter, dim location. Calculate with filter. Yeah, more than 10, right? So we are interested in knowing the total sales we made for the items which is sold at more than 10 across these three categories. Okay, and okay, for our verification, what I am going to do is I'm going to create another measure for cross verification. I'm going to drag and drop the category. I'm going to say total sales. Yeah, total sales. I'm going to put it here. So if you see the difference, you can find out the difference. Here, we simply, so with the matrix, what it did, it simply displayed the breakdown of total sales across all the category. We don't want the breakdown of the total sales of all the category. Here, what we did, we applied the filter using, using the calculate with filter measure, right? So here what we did, don't do blindly total sales in each category. Instead, I'm interested in finding out, first filter the units sold more than 10 for each category. In only in these three category, we sold more than 10. Hence, it shows only these three categories. Rest of them, like frozen foods and beverages, it is not displaying it here. Just for your sake of verification, I'm going to use quantity along with this one. Fact sales quantity, we will put it here, how much quantity we sold it. Beverages, we sold 8. Here, what is the condition? 10, right? More than 10. So in this case, we have used this measure. In this measure, we mentioned the condition. Quantity is greater than 10. Since beverages quantity is not greater than 10, it got excluded. And here in this case, we could see dairy, dry fruits, and frozen foods. Frozen fruits, why it is not? Personal care is 215. But frozen foods, why it is filtered? Let me just check. I just go ahead here and go to the data view, and then let us go to the fact sales. Okay, here I don't know the code for that one. The frozen foods along with this, let me do one thing. The category ID, cat ID. Cat ID, I just put it along with this one. So note this one, okay, columns. Along with this, I need it. And the first one is C001. And this is my dry fruits. We are very particular about frozen foods. Frozen foods 23. And why it is filtered that one? It should be greater than 10, right? It should be, yeah, greater than 10, it should come there. Frozen foods 23 is greater than 10. Why it's not doing it? Let me just go here and check it. Calculate with filter. So ideally the quantity should be, right, it's correct only. So 8 is correct. It is filtering this. It is removing this. And because 8 is less than 10, and so it is removing it. Dry fruits, frozen foods. Frozen foods, it shows 23, right? So this is C004. Let us go to the data set. And can I see the product? Okay, category ID is not there. It's a painful thing. If you don't have all the column here, it is a painful thing. I just go to this one. Yeah, the 1 second. Let me just go here. So what is the product ID? I need to take the product ID. Okay, customer ID, category ID is not there here, right? Mm, mm, mm. Okay, I just go and check the product. In this product, C004, right? Cat ID is C004. I just with the help of this one, I'm going to find out the product ID. Which products are there? Here, C004. Okay, C004 product. I need to go and check it in my fact sales, because in the fact sales, I don't have the category ID. C004. Sorry, I made a mistake here. C004. What are the products we found in P006? P006. How many number of products we sold? I'm going to unselect. I'm going to select only the P006. And P006, how much quantity we have? 3 plus 6, 10, and 10, 19, and 23 is there. Yeah, more than 8 is there. Why it is not displaying it here? That is one confusion here. Let me just check my logic. Quantity is greater than 10. Total sales. Okay, let me do one thing. I just remove this one. That is not record any of that fact sales table. So, but it still shows this one only. So let me check if anywhere else that I selected the filter. Okay, here we will see nothing, no filter has been applied, no filter has been applied. And here also no filter has been applied. So there is something wrong here. Frozen foods, let me see the relationship. Yeah, category one to many, and cat ID, and so here product ID, product ID, and cat ID and cat ID. It's correct only, right? So I don't know why it is showing something nonsense. That's why it's not filtering correctly. Quantity, right? So let me just remove this field. Sometimes beverages, it is doing the perfect job, but frozen foods, it shows. Okay, let me do one thing here. I'll just say it is doing the sum. Okay, dairy products. Let me put the quantity here also, so that you will get to know where the problem is. The troubleshooting is, see, all the data, it's doing the filtering correctly, but still we are getting some issue here. Sometimes it may not be an issue. The way we interpret is, it differs. So here, if I drag and drop quantity in this one, 8, we can say same thing, right? So frozen foods 23 is there. And calc with filter measure. Okay, why it is not doing the filter here? There is something wrong here, right? So look here, it is doing it. Personal care 215 it shows, but frozen foods, it is not showing anything, a total sales. Oh, okay. Then what would you C00? What is the, how many of you remember C006, right? P006 is the product ID. Quantity is there, but sales amount is also there, right? For P006, sales amount is there. For frozen foods, it shows blank here. Beverages also blank. So does that mean the frozen foods and beverages, the product and category, there was some problem there, relationship? Quantity is this one, and sales amount is also, if there is a blank value, then it is correct. Lookup measure. Cost price, product ID and product ID. Okay, this is fine. This is my lookup measure. Okay, fact sales. We are interested in fact sales. You want to see the fact sales? Yeah, this is the one, filtered one. But for frozen foods and beverages, it is not calculating the value here. Total sales. Let me go and see what is there in total sales. Okay, if I click on this, here I have used the total sales. This total sales comes from where? Total. Oh, okay. There I made a mistake. Total sales measure. Look here. Here I have created multiple measures with the same name. Total sales. For demo purpose, I have created multiple sales. Look at total sales here. If you see, so, okay, this is fine. And total sum of fixed sales. Here we have seen total sales, plain total sales. Let me just check. This is the one, summarize total sales. Instead of wasting time, I just do one thing. Total sales M1. This is the one total. Yeah, it's correct only, right? So total sales. Let me do one thing. I think I've used this one only, correct. So total sales. This is the measure. I used it as part of calculate. Let me do one thing. I just remove this. Click on this. Here itself, let me specify, instead of using another measure for the sake of clarity, sum of, you can use the another measure in, as part of, you can use a measure inside another measure. But the challenge is calc with calc measure. And here the values, it shows calc with calc measure, but still it shows blank for frozen measure, frozen foods and beverages. Frozen foods and beverages, because it is 8 is not greater than 10, hence it shows blank. It makes sense as per this condition. And here 23 is there. Why it is? Anyhow, I'll check and come back on this one. This is strange. Let me check and come back here. See, you understood? Here I just dragged and dropped the quantity column. Since the calculate measure, in this measure, I have a filter condition like quantity is greater than 10. It, it is not computing anything here. Okay. But whereas it is not, yeah, it is greater than 10 only. It's true only, but still it is not doing the total sales. There is some problem here. Though I use it explicitly, this one, still it is showing this one. We'll let me do one thing. We'll remove this one also for the sake of verification. Yeah, even after removing this, it's showing the same thing. But you remember, now you understood what is a filter condition. We can use, instead of using the slicer to filter the data, we can use a calculate function also to filter the data. At this moment, you remember this, okay? So for this one, I will tell you little later why the hell it is showing something nonsense. The frozen foods 2239. Here we are using category, right? So category, it is not doing the flow. Let me just check. Give me a second, guys. Sorry for the confusion. The category has to filter this one. Maybe data entry issue. Okay, let me just go and see. You understood in real time. This is how you will not get everything. It's not a cakewalk. In real time scenario, you will get errors like this. These kind of confusions. Let me just go to the, we will check the category column in the dim category. Here for frozen foods, 60 C004, correct? Frozen food C004. Quantity is 23. Okay. And what is the frozen food? C004, right? In the products table, dim products, C004, what values are there? What else is there? Only one record is there in the product name, individual meats. Individual meats, C0. What is the corresponding product? P006. If I go to the product fact sales, P006 is the product ID. For that individual meats, we could see this much, right? So how much? 8, 4 plus 3, 7, 10, 15 plus 8, 23. Yeah, it shows correctly, 23. Then why it is not computing the total sales for this one? What is the confusion? Yeah, ideally it should consider this one also. There is some filtering problem is happening. It should, okay, let me just see what data type is a decimal. Yeah, it is doing for other. It should do it for this one also. Sum of sales amount should be like this. So why it's not doing that? Only one more attempt. Let us do one thing. Calculate with filter sales. Chennai plain filter. That is a different thing. Okay, let me check and come back on this one. Okay, but here it shows very clearly the blank values for beverages because the condition in the calculate function. See, without using the apart from here we have overridden the default filtering. What do you mean by overriding the default filter? If I don't use calculate function, if I drag and drop the total sales here, let me see where I brought the total sales measure. Oh, okay. I have used something called total sales measure. Calendar. Total sales measure. Sum of sales fact. This is what I've used it. It is doing good job. It shows the breakdown of the sales across all the category and the breakdown of total quantity we sold across all the category. Good. So when it comes here, in the measures table, calculate with filter measure, what I am going to do is I am going to use that measure, the same only. You need to put it in a square bracket, total sales measure, fine. And press enter. This one will get executed, but still it shows this one only. It is not showing the overall thing. Let me just. It is a measure, it will not have anything. So I'll just again, right, I'll just check and come back on this one. Okay, there is some problem happened with the data, it seems. Will come. Frozen foods should also be displayed here, right? So 3,95,000. Okay, now we will take a look at the all function. All function. Now let us take a look at this. So what is an all function? All function that returns all of the rows in a table or all of the values in a column, but it ignores or clears any initial filters similar to the filter. Okay. See, couple of key points here you need to keep in mind, right? So the all function, right? First of all, as both a table filter and calculated modifier, right? The all function, okay? The all function is both a table filter and a calculated modifier. I'll just type it here for your sake of understanding. Now we are going to look at the all function. The all function, it returns all of the rows in a table or all of the values in a column. Okay. It ignores or clears any initial filters. So you know what is initial filter? When I drag and drop a categorical variable in a row field, it does the row filter. Or if I drag and drop a column in a column field, in the case of matrix, it does the column filtering. But when I use all function, it simply ignores the initial filter. Right? Similar to filter. We have something called filter function. We'll explain it a little later. So to summarize, all is both a table filter and a calculate modifier. Okay. It remember that it removes or clears the initial filter before the expression is evaluated. Okay, so enough theory. We will see how the all function works with a simple demo. Okay, here I just used all function here. Look here, this is the tab table. So if I go to this page, you can see the all these things I compared it here. So all measure. Let me just select this one. Where is that measure for this one being category? When I selected this, it shows the category and the fact sales amount. Okay, sales amount, and where is all measure? Let me see here. All measure. We have something called all measure. Let me see where it is here. Measure table, all measure. Okay. The measure table, can you see all measure? See, if you don't know from where this column comes from, if you hover the cursor on top of this, and you'll be able to understand where it comes from. Measure table under which you will have all measure. I think I have AllExcept and key filters. And okay, these are all percentage. Yeah, if I scroll down here, it must be okay. Better you can all measure. Let me try. Yeah, look here, filter function. The filter function, it is there, all measure. This is what I created. So here, total sales is a measure. Okay, the first argument is supposed to be aggregation. Instead of using sum of sales amount, I use total sales, all dim category. Okay, I'm going to use the same measure instead of creating a new measure. Since the measure is already there, I'm going to use this one in the interest of saving time. Yes. If I drag and drop the all measure here, let us see what happens. Okay, what I do is for the time being, I remove this measure. We'll use the sum of sales amount, or I just simply use sum of sales from fact sales. The fact sales, we have something called sum. If you see the sum, this notation prefixed with your column name, sum of sales amount. Okay, so by default, for any numeric variable, Power BI, it does the aggregation. Okay, so if I simply drag and drop this here, this is for our cross verification. I just go to the visualization, and what I do is the sales amount, I will place it just before this one and calculate with measure and all. I'll put it at the end. Okay, now if you compare it here, the first measure is nothing but the sales amount column from my fact sales. It gives me breakdown of out of the total 456,000, how much total sales we made in each category, how much total sales in So it does the breakdown automatically. This is initial filter context. Next, I have used the all measure function. The all measure function, in the all measure function, in the measure, right? So what function I've used? Calculate. In addition to that, I've used the all function. You cannot use all function without wrapping the calculate function. Okay, to use the all function, you need to use calculate function without using the calculation. So you cannot, it's not a standalone function. If you remove this one and if you put all dim, it will not work. If you start with all dim category, it will not work. So all function, you can use all function only with the help of calculate. Fine, that is fine. But here the first argument says sum of sales amount. Here all function category. All function, what it does is, see the all function, you can use either the table name itself, dim category, or you can use the column name. In this case, I've used the column name. So use the category column from the dim category and clear all the filters, initial filters. So in that case, what happens is, it displays this value across all the rows. Since, so you are telling, you just think this way, you are telling, hey, don't do the default initial filtering. Remove, right? Ignore filtering. Don't do any filtering here. Simply put this value for each and every row. That's it. Very simple one. Okay. This value, the total sales, overall total sales, you display across the rows. Simply do it. Now the question is, why should I display this across the rows? Okay, so the all function is helpful in terms of removing the initial filter context. In this case, simply it removed the, hey, it tells, hey, don't do filtering. Don't give me the breakup of total sales across the category. Instead, give me the display the total sales across the rows. As simple as that. Simply, it took this one, it put it here. Why do I need to do this one? Supposing you wanted to know what is the contribution of beverage category out of the total sales in percentage? How much percentage of contribution made by the category beverages in terms of percentage? So in that case, if you take this value and if you divide it by this, you will get the percentage. See, in Excel, it is pretty simple. In Excel, what we do is, okay, this value is there. So you create another cell. In this cell, this value divided by this value into 100, you will get percentage, isn't it? But here it is not possible. Like how we do it in Excel, it is not possible. You cannot do it here. Okay, so here you have to create, so you have to display the total sales alongside of each and every value. So you need to create another measure. In that measure, you need to divide this value by this value. I will show you how we are going to. Already I created another measure. Total sales. Let me just go here. Like a percentage of sales all. Okay, that is the one. Yeah, filter function. Here it is there. So here what I did, divide function. There is a function called divide. The first argument is the measure, right? So here, what is total sales? Sum of sales amount, comma, all measure. What is my all measure? Already we have, I mentioned you. In the case of, in the all measure, what function I used? Calculate function. Calculate function. Inside the calculate function, the first argument was total sales, comma, all of fact sales of, dim of category. Remove the filter of category. Please listen very carefully. This is very interesting one. Many of them think it is boring. Okay, so see, you see, it's nothing but simple here. This one divided by this one. That is what I mentioned it here. That's all. Look here. Now you are able to get this one. So I just go back here and I just move this along with this one. So now if I clear all this thing, now you should be able to see it very clearly. So 400 divided by this one. So divide total sales, comma, all measure. So all measure is for each and every row, it shows the same value, right? So 400 divided by this, since the denominator is very big value, it shows, it is 0, right? It's somewhat closer to 0. If the denominator is very big value, obviously you will get 0.00000, somewhat closer to 0 value, you'll get it. And 403 is not a numerator. This numerator divided by denominator. Numerator, denominator values are almost bigger value. So here in this case 0.88. So the dairy category contributes more sales compared to other category. And if you take a quick glance at it, you can easily make out is the winner. Dairy category is the winner. So in the dairy category, we are selling more. Next top selling is kind of dry fruits. So 24,000. With this percentage, also you can get an additional insight. Now the question is, you don't need this one, because when you share it with the manager, you don't care about this one. So what I am going to do is I just go to now this guy's job is over. This is just for our understanding, but still this measure is there. This measure, I used it in divide function. So in this measure, I've used a divide function. The first argument was sales amount. Second argument was all measure. This is just for our cross verification. I just dragged and dropped it here. We don't have to drag and drop this one here. When you share it with your manager, they will get confused. So I'm going to remove this guy's job is over. I'm going to remove it now. So I just minimize it so that now I remove the all measure. Okay, because we don't need it. So with this, the management can understand in beverages, it's bullshit, nothing. And dairy contribution is 0.88. 88% of sales revenue or the revenue comes from dairy, and only 0.05 revenue comes from dry fruits and the peanuts. We are getting 0.06. Personal care and dairy fruits are good, and frozen fruits we are getting peanuts, nothing. Okay, so it's not so good. 2,286 we are not getting good. Okay, next, what else we can say? Now we understood what is all function. All function simply removes the filter, the default filter. Don't give me the breakup. Simply put this value across the rows so that I can take this value divided by this value. Since it is available alongside, I can do it. You understood? That is how the all function return all the rows in a table, but it is useful for clearing the filters and create calculation all the rows in a table. Okay, got it? Next one is we have AllExcept function. The same thing, divide function, I used it. The measure name is different, AllExcept. Total is the first argument. So this measure, I created it already. Now let us go and see what is AllExcept measure. And if I go and see it here, AllExcept measure. Look here, I have already created AllExcept measure. This measure is your denominator. So look here, I just type it, guys, so that you will not get, let me just type it here. See, this is the AllExcept measure. What you are seeing here is an AllExcept measure. So what I did, divide function, the numerator, I have used total sales. Comma, AllExcept measure. This measure, I'm going to use it. What will happen when I do this? Let's see, your total sales is 500 divided by 4,56,000. That is what is happening. So the AllExcept. Now the question is, what is the difference between all and AllExcept? In the case of AllExcept, the first argument supposed to be a table name. The second argument is your column name. If you are going to use, or if you can use table name itself, but here in this case, all except you need to use the table name as a first argument is mandatory, and second argument your column name. That's all. Otherwise, it is same as your all function, but there is a difference. What difference? I will show you now. So already we have created all except measure, and now we need to see percentage of sales. Okay, I just drag and drop all except measure. First, we will understand what value we are getting it with all except measure. Oh, okay, we are getting same as sales amount. So if you see these two columns, the values are same. But if you see, I just put the all measure also so that you can compare everything side by side. All measure. If I drag and drop this here along with this, all measure blindly, it ignores all the filter. Don't do any breakdown. Simply repeat this total. But all except, it is different from all measure. Now, what happens is it simply gives me the breakdown of the total sales of each and every category. It is same as sales amount. Then why the hell should I use all except? Okay, to answer to this question, I just go to the visualization pane and I'm going to use a slicer. Sorry, let me do one thing. I always make this mistake. You need to click on the empty space and then click on the new visual. I didn't do that. Okay, here what I do is, look here, there is a magic. Here I'm going to say category. Sorry, dim category. Dim category. This category column, I just put it in a slicer. Now let us see what is the magic here. Dairy and dry fruits, something, okay, and personal care. These three products, these three categories I selected here. Now let us compare what? All and all except and sales amount column. Now the all except values are similar to this one only. All except is similar to this one, even after applying the filter in this slicer. Okay. And all measure, no matter what item you selected, it will not give the breakdown, it will give you the total sales only. Okay, what is so big deal about all, sorry, not all except, okay, sorry, I should have taken, see, all except measure, also say, yeah, all except measure also same as this one, right? All except measure. That means you remove the filters on all the columns. Let's say if I used some other column along with category, if I have location column here, right? So it'll ignore the filter on location column, but it will do the filtering still for it. It gives me the breakdown of the same thing. Okay, all except. So as the name suggests, all except, what did I use? The first argument was the total sales. Second argument was all except function. Inside of this, I've given dim category column. So if you apply any filter, do it, you can give me the breakdown accordingly, right? So see, it is same as all except or sales amount only. Okay, so in one way it is same as this one. There is something else called all except. Here the Bangalore, say keep filters, and all except also keep filters. One more thing is there, all selected. We have something called all selected. Look here, all selected. This is another measure. This is also a very interesting one. All selected is the same as your all function. Okay. In fact, the all selected is similar to your all function, but there is a subtle difference. But all except is not same as all function. Okay. Sorry, I take back my word. Okay. I myself got confused. All selected, all function, more or less same. All except is different. All selected function, it ignores the filter on the category column. So now if I drag and drop all selected here, let us see what happens. Look here, all selected function, ignore the filter like all measure, but there is a subtle difference, but the values are not same. Then what is the difference between all function? Now let us analyze this one. What is the difference in all and all selected? So if you watch videos and blogs, they use a lot of jargons, you will get confused. Okay. The simple plain English, what is happening is whatever the item that you selected in this slicer, right? It displays the visuals for this item selected in simple term. Whatever the items you selected in the slicer, in the visual, it gives you the total value for these three selected values. So here dairy, dry fruits, personal car, these three categories I selected. Corresponding sales amount is displayed and 4,53,000. So here for the visually displayed, right? For the visual total for these three items, this is the total sale. This is the one got displayed repeatedly here in the all selected. Okay, repeatedly selected. Then what is this all measure? All measure, it not only computed a total sales for these three categories, for the unselected categories also it took into account. All the 5 categories put together, what is the total sales? 4,56,000. Repeat that. But whatever the items you selected, what is the total sales? That one only you need to repeat it here in the case of all selected. You remember it? Sorry. Are you able to understand? See here in the slicer, whatever the items that I selected, for that you compute the total. Obviously, it does this, same thing. The same total value for these three items or visual, right? In the visual, you can see only these three values selected. These total, these three total value will get repeated here. Whereas here, it repeats the overall total sales, all the 5 categories put together, what is the total sales? Now the question is how both all selected and selected will help me to do to gain the insight. Look here, already we discussed about the percentage sales all. If somebody is asking you, so dairy, out of the total sales, out of the 4,56,148, how much sales we made in dairy category in terms of percentage? 88% sales contribution was made by the dairy category. Across by right. So out of the total 5 categories, the percentage sales we made in dairy is 0.88. Now the question is, okay, this is good. What is all selected? So out of these 3 selected, what is the total sales we made? So this value divided by this value, this value divided by this value, this value divided by this value. Got it? So you will get different perspective. This is the beauty of the all and all selected function. I'll show you percentage of all except all selected. Let me do one thing. All selected is not there. Let me go and see it here. Instead of wasting time, I just go and pick up the measure here itself. All selected measure. Okay. Percentage of sales all selected. So I just go and percentage of sales all selected. Okay, it is there here. Percentage sales all selected. Yes, I just go and drag and drop it here. It gives me beautiful insight. Of these 3 items selected, how much sales we made in dairy category? 89. 89% of sales we made in dairy category. 0.05 say percentage of sales we made in dry fruits. What I will do is I will just percentage and all I will group it together so that the comparison will be easier. I just push the percentage at the end. 0.88, 0.89, 0.0, 0.0, not much difference. But here 0.8, 0.89. Out of these three selected, what is the out of these three selected, the total sales is 453K. Out of this 453K, how much contribution of sales we made in each category? You got it? This is overall sales, each category, how much we sales made. Out of these selected values, how much total sales we made in each category in terms of percentage. That is what we are seeing it here. It's beautiful, isn't it? Now we don't need all selected, we don't need all measure. I'm not going to remove it now. I will leave it as it is for your reference. Anyhow, I will share this file with you all right after this session, so that you need to practice it without fail. But don't think data science is different. This is different. Even in data science, they expect you to give more and more insights. So this is a beautiful insight. You can gain more. See, in this case, that we don't have much data. Okay. Let me select something. One more thing. Frozen foods. Okay. Okay. Let me select unselect dairy and beverages. Look here. If you see here, beverages 0% of contribution out of all the total sales of the category, right? Out of all the 5 category, if you take the percentage of contribution of beverage, 0. But for those items we selected, the total is 52,000. How much sales contribution made by beverages only for this selected category? 452. See, look here, 1%, 0.01. But here 0.47. Look here, dry fruits we made 0.47. But this is compared to overall all the categories total sales percentage, it is 0.5 only. But excluding dairy, we could see that dry fruits contribution is also good, and frozen foods 0.04 and personal care is 0.48. Got it? So this is how you can gain very good insight by knowing all these things. Okay. And the next one is KeepFilter's Bangalore measure. Okay, I have created something called Bangalore measure. Yeah, KeepFilter's Bangalore measure. I just click on this. Total same thing. Instead of all select AllExcept, KeepFilters, I explicitly mentioned Bangalore here. Okay. Here I've used a filter condition as part of KeepFilters Bangalore. See, now if I drag and drop this along with this, now you will be able to understand what is the functionality of KeepFilter function in DAX. What happens is it gives me the breakdown. This is the overall total sales we made in each category. So beverages we made 400 and dry fruits. But in Bangalore, how much sales we made in beverages? Let's say your corporate office in Bangalore. So this measure is very much helpful. Apart from the sales breakdown for each category, overall sales breakdown for each category. If I wanted to know specific, I want to compare these two things. 100, right? So in Bangalore, we made 100, 400, 24,000, 24,710. Here 250 only, right? So 250. So not so good in Bangalore. We are not doing that much great. Again, if you create the percentage, this is an assignment for you all. Give me the percentage of sales in each category for Bangalore. What is the contribution in terms of percentage? Or rather than saying this, the percentage of sales we made across each category for Bangalore, I need it. And also for the selected items, if I select any item in this slicer, give me the percentage of sales, right, for this selected category, right? So that is what I needed. So in that case, how to do that? So now you understood keep filters is not removing the filter. Okay, it is not removing the filter like all function. Like all function, it is not removing the filter, but it retains the filter only for the specified filtering condition. That is what. So now we understood what is the difference between all selected, all function, all selected. So all selected is ignoring any other row or column filter context from within a visual. Column filter context from within the visual, right? So that is what you are all selected. And the next one is the AllExcept. AllExcept, remove all filters from a table except for some columns. AllExcept removes all filters from a table except for some columns. Okay, for category column, you don't remove the filter, you give me the same breakdown. Okay, breakdown. But if now I'm going to complicate it a little bit. I'm going to use a location column along with this. Let us see what is happening. For example, this is a filter, so this is a slicer. I just clear this slicer and I'm going to create another slicer. I just put it here. Here I'm going to say location name. I just drag and drop this here. If I select, for example, Bangalore, look here, I can see this Bangalore keep filters value and these values are same. And if I select Chennai, so what happens? Though I selected the values in location, still the filtering is happening. This visual is getting updated. Okay. But the all measure also getting changed, right? Only for these selected values, the all measure, it is not giving me the overall sales. So what happens here? Let me do one thing. I just unclear this one. Unselect that one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop the location name also along with this one. So in this case, location name is the columns, right? So I just put it here, location name. Okay. If I click on beverages, in Bangalore, how much sales we made all this? So let me do one thing. Instead of matrix, what I will do is I will just convert the table. Okay, let me just go here. Instead of this, here I did not use location. Okay. Okay, location, what we will do is instead of having another column, right? Let me do it. I'll create a measure and the column name is, okay, I don't want to complicate this one now. We will leave it because if I try to explain this, you will get confused. Okay, the location name, for example, Bangalore, if I select, it does this one, but all selected, if you see, all measure, if you see, 5532, right? So for Bangalore location alone, what is the total? This is the one is getting repeated here, right? And why it is not constant in this case? The all measure, we mentioned that only for the items, whatever I selected here, you ignore the filter. But for location name, we did not specify it, right? Location. So hence, it is not ignoring this filter. You understood? Okay. Now, if I select beverages and dairy, frozen foods, okay, and personal care. So in this case, what happens is I selected in both the beverages. Now you might be asking the all measure. We have selected category. It should ignore this filter. But whereas it is not ignoring the filtering of category, because along with the category, you are using location name. Right. So in that case, what will happen is it is not going to remove the filter for the location name. Okay, it is not good. So it gives me the breakdown for the Bangalore city across all the category. And right, so that's all. Because you have selected a second one, it is, see, location name. If you keep the cursor here, the beverages, dairy, frozen foods, this one gets applied to this one. And then what happens is for Bangalore, and then you selected Bangalore, right? So what happens is it gives me the breakdown of the sales. But if I remove this one, I cleared this one. So now what happened? Since I have used only the selected the values from category column, the all measure I mentioned for category column alone, you ignore the filter. Don't give me the breakup. Okay. If I mentioned location name in all measure function, right? So it would have ignored for location name column also. Got it? So that is what the difference between all function, the all selected function. The all function simply ignore the filter, right? The initial filter context. What is the initial filter? Row filter, column filter, the slicer or filter, anything you do it will simply ignore it. It will give me the overall total because you mentioned explicitly, hey, anything comes from category column, simply ignore it. Don't give me the breakup. Sorry, in the all measure. All selected, whatever the items that you selected, for those items, only you display it. Yes, it respects this filter value, filtering condition. But what you do is you repeat the value of the total value of the selected values across the rows. Here, whether selected value, it considers all the categories total sales. It repeats all the total category sales, but here only for the selected category sales it repeats. And then all except what it does is, except the category column, rest of the column you can ignore it. You can, okay, what I am going to do is, I will just select Bangalore here. Okay, let me do one thing. I'm going to select only the, yeah, except the category column, rest of the column ignore the filter, right? All except. In this case, I have, in the case of all except, I mentioned the category column, dim category column. So what happens is, except the location name, the rest of the column, it ignores the filter. Okay. Sorry, in this case, I have used all, like, one second. Let us go to the all except. Yeah, category column. Only for the category column, you retain the filter. The rest of them, you ignore it, right? So rest of them, you ignore it. So if I select Bombay, but here I did not use location column here. Okay, if I use location column here, then we will get to know. So what I am going to do is, in this case, I'm going to use a location name. Okay, let us not get into that one. It will take more time, some more time. So I just remember all except in the all except function, we mentioned the category column, category name column. So in that case, what will happen? Anything other than category column, you can ignore the filter. For category column, you apply the filter, initial filter context. It's kind of initial filter, same as initial filter context. Filter the value. Got it? So the all function simply ignores all the filters based on the column that you mentioned it. All selected also do the same thing as all, but all selected function is helpful to give me the visible total. This is the visible total here. This means the visible total. With the help of this one, we can find out what is the total sales by each category out of the visible total. Okay, visible total. So that percentage we can commit. Keep filters along with this. If I wanted to see a specific city or specific category alone, or specific city or location alone, what is the sales? Right. So this is the one you can do. And then remove filter. There is a function remove filter, same as all function. Keep filter as the name. Yeah, keep the filter. As it is. Whereas in the case of uh, remove filter, same as all measure. That's it, guys. I will share this PBX file. You start practice it. Definitely, you should be able to understand the functionality of this one. I'll share it as it is right after this session. Okay. Any questions so far? Yeah. So when will this training going to get completed? Next week, we are going to end the entire DAX part this Saturday, next Saturday. In the meanwhile, I will see to that I will get all your consent. If you guys are okay, we'll spend either Wednesday or Thursday to complete the wrap up the DAX or the Power BI part. And the next one is the SQL part. Those of you who are interested, will continue with the SQL part from this upcoming Saturday and Sunday. So that this Saturday and Sunday will wrap up the entire training program with some assignment. And then we'll start workout on your profile and other documentation part. And we will plan for mock interview preparation session. Ideally, if you guys can earmark one day during the weekday, either Wednesday or Thursday, this weekend we will finish off the SQL part also. So that next weekend onwards, next weekend we will plan for interview preparation session, one session. Sunday you can take a break, review all the topics whatever I covered, and followed by that week we will start process your profile. Okay, so you need to share your bio data. What we will do is we have a team of people, will share your profile with them. They will work on your profile. They will put projects, different projects for different profiles. And then during the interview preparation session, we'll explain you what each project is all about. Mock interview will conduct. That time also we'll explain it. And then we'll start flow to your profile. Let me see how many of you are able to revisiting all the topics, whatever I covered it. Based on your comfort level, based on your performance, we'll decide whether I can float your profile with the prospective employers. If you find any gap, don't worry, we'll try to help you addressing those one. We'll help you how to address those gap and all. And then we will share, because before I share the profile, make sure that you all prepared well. After sharing the profile, my people should not scream with me, what profile you selected, man. They don't even know how to articulate the project, the concepts. Right? I don't want to end up like this. If that is the case, what will happen is, even if I share potential candidates profile later point in, they will simply reject it. They will not say, oh, that company, okay, man, I'm not getting good profile. All dumb profiles I'm getting it. I don't want to end up that kind of situation. Hence, I'll make sure that. But from your side also, you should do a lot of groundwork. Don't disregard this. You can easily get, even if you are 0 years experience, you can easily get 10.5. It all depends on your dedication and hard work. Okay, since you don't have any questions, I'm going to wrap up the session. We'll share the video and the PBX file without file. Okay, we will circle back next weekend for sure. And